In the summer of 1978 in Argentina, the Dutch national football team, the Orange Hurricane, thrilled fans all over the world, writing an unbelievable journey at the 1978 World Cup. Without Saint Johan Cruyff in the squad, many people thought the era of total football would fade away. But no, with a generation of talented players and a fiery attacking style of play, mixed with a more tenacious and pragmatic side, they went all the way, to the final. Despite losing to host Argentina in a controversial and dramatic match, the 1978 Netherlands still became an unforgettable part of memory, dubbed the greatest runners-up in history. But behind those glorious and regretful moments on the Buenos Aires pitch are real people with very different fates. More than 45 years have passed. Time has carved different traces on their lives. Some became coaching legends, some chose a secluded life by the fishing lake, and there were also those who had to stop their journey due to tragedy and illness. Let's look back at the ups and downs of the players who made up the soul of the golden generation of the Netherlands that year. Ruud Krol, the leader of the Dutch defensive axis, nicknamed Snuff for his exceptional ability to read situations and sniff out opportunities. At 29, he entered the 1978 World Cup, no longer the all-round left-back of 4 years earlier, but the heart of a new defensive system, a powerful libero. When Johan Cruyff refused to go to Argentina, Krol was forced to be reborn. He left the left wing to move into the center, took the captain's armband, and became a deep-lying conductor, a sweeper who both protected the goal and organized the play. His 5,060-meter-long passes were so precise that they seemed drawn with a ruler, opening up a whole area of attacking space for his teammates. With his tall posture, dignified steps, and majestic demeanor, Krol was like a general commanding the front, both steadfast in defense and sophisticated in coordination. In the context of the Dutch national team's internal situation, full of strong egos and simmering conflicts, he was the one who kept the orange ship from deviating from its orbit, bringing valuable stability in the journey to conquer the 1978 World Cup. After the tournament, Krol did something rare for a Dutch player at the time. He moved to Italy to play for Napoli. There, he was revered as a god. The Neapolitans loved him so much that when he was injured, thousands of people would gather outside the hospital. He played football with flamboyance, turning the position of defender into a performance art. After retiring, Krol chose the life of a global citizen. He did not stay in the warm and cozy Europe, but ventured to sunny and windy Africa. He led Orlando Pirates in South Africa, Zamalek in Egypt, then Esperance in Tunisia. He lived in hotels, traveled by long flights, and sowed the philosophy of total football in arid lands. Krol's life was a tireless journey. He found joy in travel and cultural diversity. On the pitch, Krol covered the entire field. Off it, he covered the world. His generosity in play reflected his free-spirited, unfettered spirit. Today, at 75, Ruud Krol has chosen to stop. He lives a quiet life, occasionally appearing on Italian and Dutch TV channels to analyze tactics. He is the beloved godfather of Dutch football, a living monument to eternal class. Rob Rensenbrink, the Netherlands' tricky left winger nicknamed Slangenmans, Snake Men, for his lithe running, uncanny balance and mesmerizing dribbling moves, entered the 1978 World Cup at the age of 30 to fill a huge void to replace Johan Cruyff. In that tournament, Rensenbrink really exploded. He scored 5 goals, assisted 4 times, an efficiency even surpassing Cruyff in 1974 with his characteristic bow legs and incredible body control. Rensenbrink slid through the tackles like a stream, smooth but unstoppable. However, history was cruel. In the 30th second of injury time in the final, when the score was 11, he broke free, kicked the ball through Philol's hands. The ball rolled, slowly, then bounced off the post. If it had gone into the net, the Netherlands would have won the championship. He would have surpassed Cruyff's shadow and touched the golden ball. But that cold knock closed the door to heaven, turning Rensenbrink into a genius haunted by a moment just centimeters away from glory. After that fateful moment, Rensenbrink returned to normal life in an incredibly quiet way. He was a superstar, but suffered from agoraphobia. He did not like interviews, did not like the spotlight. He bought a house by the lake in Oostzaan and spent the rest of his life fishing and gardening. When asked about the shot that hit the post, he just smiled, sadly. It was fate. If it had gone into the net, my life would have been turned upside down, and I don't like the noise. He accepted being mentioned with regret rather than honoring his outstanding talent. He was once ranked by Pelé as one of the best players in the world. Rensenbrink was a paradox brilliant talent, but withdrawn personality. The vertical bar in 1978 seemed to be the boundary drawn by fate to keep him from the peaceful life he always wanted. However, the talented snake man could not escape the scythe of death, suffering from the terrible spinal muscular atrophy, PSMA. His body gradually became paralyzed. On January 24, 2020, Rob Rensenbrink passed away at the age of 72. He left with the injustice of the goalpost, but left behind the image of one of the most humble geniuses in football history. Johan Neeskens, the powerful drumbeat of the Dutch midfield known as Johan II, who possesses the steely spirit and energetic style of play typical of a true box-to-box midfielder. At 26, he is the type of player who is both skillful enough to handle the ball and tough enough to crush any opponent's plans. At the 1978 World Cup, Neeskens became the true lungs of the Orange Storm, a hot heart carrying uncompromising determination, but also possessing a cool head to control the tempo of the match. He was famous for his painful tackles, his penalty kicks that slammed straight into the middle of the goal, like a hammer, and his characteristic playing style with socks always hanging down to his ankles. Despite being tormented by a rib injury throughout the tournament, Neeskens still gritted his teeth and endured the pain, received injections to enter the field, ran tirelessly, recovered the ball, fought, and rushed forward to assist in scoring. It was this tenacity and fighting spirit that turned him into the soul of the Netherlands' strength in 1978. Neeskens' career was a brilliant adventure. He was Cruyff's most loyal friend and teammate from Ajax Barcelona to the New York Cosmos in the US. He had the rugged beauty of a movie star, making millions of women fall in love. After retiring, Neeskens did not choose to be comfortable. He struggled with the coaching profession, working as an assistant to Frank Rijkaard at Barcelona and Galatasaray. He participated in the World Coaches Project, traveling to the poorest lands to teach football to children. He lived passionately, always had a big smile, and never refused a beer with fans. The way Neeskens approaches life is by throwing himself on the field, not sparing himself. He lives in a hurry, living in the moment as if every day were a final. The bad news came suddenly, like an electric shock, while still working hard on his coaching job in Algeria on October 6, 2024. Johan Neeskens suddenly passed away at the age of 73. The football world was shocked. No one believed that the eternal source of energy would be extinguished. He fell right on the battlefield while still dedicating himself to the greatest love of his life: football. Arie Haan, the deep-lying fulcrum of the Dutch midfield known as Arie Bombari for his terrifying long-range shots. At 29, he has the appearance of a defensive midfielder who can drop into central defense but possesses a weapon that few of his contemporaries have: long-range shots that can change the course of a match. At the 1978 World Cup, Haan became the Netherlands' biggest game-changer. When the forwards were blocked, he would come forward like a cannon from the back. His two memorable goals against Italy's Dino Zoff and Germany's Sepp Maier both came from 35 to 40 meters away, with the ball's trajectory strange, hurling like an unpredictable cannonball. In the deepest position of midfield, Johan was both a launching pad for attacks and a hidden assassin that any goalkeeper had to be wary of. It was this long-range weapon that made him one of the Netherlands' most distinctive faces at that year's tournament. After retiring, Johan became a coach with a very strong personality, even dictatorial. He led big teams like Stuttgart Feyenoord, but was also willing to go to strange places like China. He is considered the father of early modern Chinese football, Iran or Albania. He is famous for being straightforward, not afraid to clash with the leadership or stars. His life is a series of continuous conquests to assert his ego. Those reckless long-range shots of 1978 were Johan's character, bold, daring, and powerful. He always believed in himself regardless of the odds or the doubts of others. Now 76 Johan has chosen a secluded life on the border between Belgium and Spain. He avoids the media, enjoying his old age surrounded by golf, courses, and family. He leaves behind a legacy of modern long-range shooting, reminding posterity that sometimes distance is just a number if you have enough confidence. Wim Jansen is not the type of player who impresses with flashy moves. He belongs to that rare elite group of players whose value you have to understand to appreciate. In a Dutch team filled with Ajax geniuses, Jansen, a mainstay of Feyenoord, still stands out as someone who thoroughly understands the philosophy of total football. At the 1978 World Cup, he was the glue that held it all together. A player with superb positional intelligence, always in the right place at the right time, always choosing the most organized solution. When Neeskens or Hahn would rush forward to open the attack, Jansen would drop back to balance the structure. When his teammates were under pressure, he became a reliable release valve, maintaining the rhythm and restarting the play with a simple but elegant touch. Jansen rarely makes mistakes, rarely loses the ball, and almost never does anything unnecessary. That is why Johan Cruyff once frankly admitted, "Wim Jansen is one of the very few people in the world that I actually listen to when they talk about football." A silent organizer, but irreplaceable. After retiring, Jansen became an excellent coach and technical director. His peak was the 1997 to 1998 season when he led Celtic Scotland. He helped the club prevent the great rival Rangers from winning the 10th consecutive championship. Glorious achievement. He was also the person who discovered and brought Henrik Larsson to Celtic. In real life, Jansen lived an extremely private life. He was a close friend, often discussing tactics with Cruyff until St. Johan passed away. They were two sides of the same coin, the brilliant Cruyff, the taciturn Jansen. Jansen's quiet wisdom on the pitch has followed him throughout his life. He doesn't need the spotlight to prove his worth. He is the one behind the scenes creating success for others. In his later years, his extraordinary intellect was challenged by dementia. It is heartbreaking that the owner of such a huge tactical memory gradually forgot everything. On January 25th, 2022, Wim Jansen passed away at the age of 75. His passing marked the end of a living dictionary of Dutch football. Johnny Rep, 26 years old at the time, and born in 1951, known by the nickname Good Handje. Golden Boy is the player who holds the record for most goals scored for the Netherlands in World Cups with 7 goals. In Argentina, 1978, he contributed 3 goals, most notably a long-range shot like an arrow of light against Scotland. With his dashing appearance, flowing blonde hair, and charming smile, Rep makes people easily mistake him for a football artist. However, hidden behind that angelic face is the instinct of a true assassin. an improvisational style of play speed like the wind and the ability to appear at the right moment to punish any mistake of the opponent. Rep was a symbol of the generation of star players of the 1970s, talent coupled with personal troubles. He moved to France to play for Bastia and Saint-Étienne, living a lavish life. He had several failed marriages and admitted to using stimulants amphetamine, a normal thing in football at the time but shocking to later generations. However, Rep always lives optimistically. He writes books, participates in reality TV shows. He does not hide his dark corners, but faces them with humor. Johnny Rep embodied the frivolity and charm of football. He played football as a pastime and lived life as a love affair. Today, at 73, Johnny Rep still maintains the demeanor of a good old boy. He lives in a comfortable apartment, regularly meets fans, and tells funny stories about his heyday. He is proof that despite mistakes, as long as you are true to yourself, you will still be loved. Jan Youngblood. Then 37 was one of the most eccentric figures in football history, a goalkeeper who wore the number 8 jersey and often played without gloves, simply because he believed that bare hands helped him feel the ball more accurately. As the oldest player in the tournament, Youngblood did not impress with spectacular diving moves like traditional goalkeepers, but he possessed an invisible weapon, the ability to read the game sharply and play high like a true sweeper. It was this eccentricity but effectiveness that became an important piece in the total football system, where he was not only a goalkeeper, but also a tactical link from the back. Youngblood's life was a Greek tragedy. In 1984, his son Eric Youngblood, also a goalkeeper, was struck and killed by lightning on the pitch during a match in front of spectators. The pain haunted him for the rest of his life. He himself collapsed from a heart attack on the pitch while working as an assistant coach in 1988, but luckily survived. He was also known as a fishing addict and once owned a tobacco shop. He represented the common, simple class in the world of football. On the field, Youngblood bravely stood in the fragile goalposts. Off the field, he bravely endured the lightning bolts of fate. He taught us a heartbreaking lesson in resilience. After a long period of poor health, the legendary goalkeeper number 8 breathed his last on August 30th, 2023, at the age of 82. His passing left a nostalgic void for a time when football was full of strange and genuine personalities. Dick Nanninga, then 29, came onto the world's biggest football stage from an unlikely background. A construction worker, then a florist, and only later a professional career. But it was this man who came from amateur football who became a hero in the 1978 World Cup final. Nanninga came off the bench and did what even legends like Cruyff and Rensenbrink could not do in that match score. His powerful header in the 82nd minute, like a hammer blow to the fiery atmosphere of the Monumental, brought the stadium to a standstill, with his muscular build powerful, pressing ability and sharp aerial skills. Nanninga was the classic center forward, simple, raw, but powerful. After a brief glory, Nanninga's life fell into the abyss of illness. In 2012, complications from diabetes caused him to fall into a deep coma for 5 months. When he woke up, he faced the harsh truth. Doctors had to amputate his left leg, the leg that had jumped high at the World Cup to save his life. From a giant on the field, he had to spend the rest of his life in a wheelchair, but he never complained. He still laughed and talked about that goal as a spiritual medicine. It was an irony of fate to take away the legs of a man who used them to write history. But no illness could take away Nanninga's fighting spirit. On July 21st, 2015, Dick Nanninga passed away at the age of 66. He left, taking with him the memory of that golden header 10 years ago, leaving fans with a lesson about the value of once-in-a-lifetime moments of brilliance. Willy van de Kerkhoff, then 26 years old, and nicknamed de Stofzuiger, vacuum cleaner, was the silent but irreplaceable worker of the Dutch team. He played all 7 matches in Argentina as if every lung on the pitch was named Willy. If Johan Neeskens was the heart of the team, then he was the tireless lung. The nickname vacuum cleaner says it all. Willy swept, recovered the ball, and cleared all dangers right in front of the defense, creating space for the artists in the front line to be creative. He did not show off fancy techniques, but was ruthlessly effective. It was Willy's tenacity, steadfastness, and relentless work ethic that kept the total machine running despite the absence of Cruyff, whom the Netherlands always tried to compensate for at every turn. Along with his twin brother, René Willy, is an eternal symbol of PSV Eindhoven. An interesting detail is that when King of Football Pelé selected the FIFA 100 list, 100 greatest living players, Willy van de Kerkhoff was named a worthy recognition for his silent contributions. Willy's life is quite peaceful and fulfilling. He always stands side by side with his younger brother in all activities from business to being a brand ambassador. He is a family man, prestigious and absolutely respected in the Dutch football village. On the field, Willy cleans up his teammates' fouls. Off the field, he is a keeper of traditional values, responsible and steadfast as a rock. Today, at the age of 73, Willy is still healthy and sharp. He often appears in the stands of Philips Stadium to cheer for PSV. He is proof that you don't need to be a goal scorer. Just do your best at your job. You will still become a legend. René van de Kerkhoff, 26, and nicknamed De Blind, was the other half of the famous twins, but his style was completely different, fierce, direct, and full of speed, like a whirlwind rolling down the right flank. Also playing all 7 matches in Argentina, René became the sharpest spearhead for the Dutch team with his blistering sprints and unpretentious play. Before the 1978 final, he was nearly banned because his arm was in a cast that was deemed too stiff and potentially dangerous, but was eventually allowed to play with a softer bandage. The image of René fighting with his arm bandaged became a symbol of the Dutch spirit, fierce, resilient, and never giving up. René's life was more eventful than his brother Willy's. He was also a PSV legend, but had a terrible experience in 1973. He was almost kidnapped in front of his house, but luckily escaped. That event had a big impact on his psychology for a while. After retiring, René went into business and was quite successful. He and his brother Willy were an inseparable pair on football commentary shows, bringing laughter with their humor and frankness. René's fast-forward style of play reflects a man who is always outgoing and optimistic. No matter what happens, he keeps running just like he used to dribble down the touchline. René is now 73 years old, still living happily and healthily. The Willy-René couple is still a national treasure of Dutch football, representing brotherhood and loyalty. Ernie Brandts, a 22-year-old defender with a fiery heart and a steely spirit, wrote one of the most dramatic chapters in World Cup history, transforming himself from villain to hero in just 90 minutes. In the second group stage match against Italy in the 18th minute, his attempted clearance accidentally turned into an own goal, putting the Netherlands in danger and causing the sky to fall before the young player's eyes. But Brandts refused to give up. In the 50th minute, he unleashed a thunderous shot from distance, equalizing for the Netherlands, starting the comeback before Ari Hahn completed the victory. From the depths of despair to the pinnacle of glory, Brandts showed the mettle of a true warrior, one who does not let mistakes define him. After that glory and ups and downs, Brandts had a stable career at PSV. When he retired, he turned to coaching, working as a longtime assistant at PSV and leading small teams in the Netherlands, Iran, Tanzania, and Rwanda. He did not make a fuss in the press, but chose to work quietly, patiently, building the foundations for the teams he worked for. Brandt's story at the 1978 World Cup was the biggest lesson of his life. Mistakes are not the end. What matters is how you correct them. He carried that philosophy into his coaching career, always patient with the mistakes of young players. Currently, Ernie Brandt, 68 years old, is still involved in football as a manager and advisor. He is a living testament to the will to overcome adversity, to affirm one's own worth. Piet Schrijvers, at the age of 31, entered the 1978 World Cup, like a giant bear guarding the Dutch goal with a body of nearly 100 kilograms, but with incredibly fast reflexes. He was the #1 goalkeeper of Oranje in the early stages of the tournament, not Jongbloed, and it was his excellent form that contributed to bringing the Netherlands deep into the final round. However, cruel fate chose Schrijvers at the moment. No one wanted in the match against Italy, after a strong collision with teammate Ernie Brandt. The situation leading to an own goal, he suffered a serious injury and had to leave the field on a stretcher. That injury robbed him of the chance to start in the historic final, handing the position to veteran Jongbloed. From the bench, Schrijvers could only watch his teammates fight and then collapse, carrying the pain silently at the threshold of heaven. Schrijvers is an Ajax legend with 5 national championships. After football, he retired to the construction materials business. But in the last years of his life, the brave bear had to face an invisible but cruel opponent, Alzheimer's disease. The disease gradually gnawed at his memory, taking away the memories of his miraculous saves. A goalkeeper spends his whole life protecting the goal, but in the end he cannot protect his own memory. The steadfastness of the body is in complete contrast to the fragility of the mind as one ages. On September 7th, 2022, Piet Schrijvers passed away at the age of 75. His passing left Ajax and the Netherlands fans in mourning. He missed the World Cup final and finally missed his own memories before passing away. Wim Soerbier, 33 years old, the team's mischievous veteran and comedian, entered the 1978 World Cup, like a veteran performing his last dance in 1978. Brilliant orange, no longer physically fit to play regularly, Soerbier was still a living witness to the glorious Ajax era of the early 70s and one of the pioneers who laid the foundations for total football. In Argentina, he played the role of a strategic reserve, always ready to play when the team needed alertness and experience. In the final, Soerbier was sent on the field in the last minutes, bringing with him veteran spirit, optimism, and steel, intangible but extremely valuable values for the Dutch team in the fateful moment. Wim Soerbier was Johan Cruyff's best friend. He was known as a playboy, a prankster to relieve stress. He moved to the US to play for the LA Aztecs and lived a free American lifestyle. He worked as an assistant coach in many places but never seriously pursued the pinnacle of power. For Soerbier, football and life were all about having fun. Soerbier never let the pressure get to him. He played with a smile and lived with a smile. He was the embodiment of the bright, generous side of total football. In May 2020, a sudden brain hemorrhage struck down the always cheerful man Wim Soerbier, passed away on July 12, 2020 at the age of 75. He left behind countless humorous anecdotes, reminding us that besides the fierceness, football is also pure joy. Jan Poortvliet, a 22-year-old defender, entered the 1978 World Cup as a young face in the midst of a storm and was then thrust by fate straight into the historic final against Argentina. When his seniors were injured one after another, Poortvliet became the surprise choice for the starting position. A huge challenge against the firepot Monumental and the home team's veteran strikers. Despite his inexperience, he fought with all his enthusiasm, using his youth to fill in the gaps of his lack of experience. In the end, the Netherlands lost, but breathing in the stifling but glorious atmosphere of a World Cup final at the age of 22 became the most valuable asset in Poortvliet's career. Poortvliet's playing career was tied to PSV. After retiring, he became a good coach with youth football. He led Southampton in the Premier League, with an attacking philosophy and trust in young players like himself in the past. He is an emotional person, always close to, and inspires his students. Given an opportunity at a young age, Poortvliet devoted his life to giving opportunities to other young people. He was a bridge between generations and a dedicated teacher. But life was short for that gentle man. The terrible cancer took him away on March 31st, 2016, when he was only 60 years old. Johan Cruyff was the first player in the starting lineup of the 1978 final to pass away, leaving behind the sorrow of a gentle smile that had faded too soon.